That happens with a lot of candidates, and I had a couple of bad hires, but what I'm doing now, which is a little bit different, is going a little bit more in depth in the actual delivery and performance of the person in the particular field that I'm hiring. I don't want to see more results, and I want to see specific things, and now what I'm trying to do is to give some sort of questions or a specific task that the person should do in an hour or two, or perhaps in a couple of days, so I see exactly what type of intellectual capital we're hiring, and in that way I am reducing those bad hires.
Well, we're all human, so mistakes happen. We can go through all the due diligence, background checks, long interviews, second interviews, maybe team interviews that a lot of us use in terms of our techniques. And sometimes it's 3-6 months later, the individual didn't meet our expectations. Their resume was strong, their attitude was good, and maybe they just didn't like it. And that's okay. And you shake hands and you part ways.
The one hiring mistake that comes to mind, unfortunately, is I took a recommendation from a person, just face value. Didn't do my reference checks as I normally do. Really didn't follow up as much. I'm not even sure that I did a personal interview. I probably had someone just on the recommendation of someone else. And what I learned through that is not necessarily that I couldn't trust that person, but we run completely different operations. What I'm looking for someone, or what is the best fit for Philadelphia, may not have necessarily been the best fit for that organization. So sometimes personalities can be really big and they seem really enthusiastic and passionate and they just love our industry and people, but their skill set doesn't necessarily match up. I'm very keen on skill set and experience, and also to making sure that I vet even my friends' recommendations now.
The mistake I know I've made on a few occasions is one, I take the experience, the resume, and as incredible, as impressive as it is, it takes precedent over the intangibles: attitude, passion for the work, understanding and appreciation for our company. Those things are so critically important. They're actually more important than the resume. And when you let the resume take precedent over that, it usually doesn't go well.
Well, we run people through what you call a gauntlet or a car wash or any of those things. We make sure that everybody that's going to be working with a candidate gets an opportunity to meet them. And we ask them their candid opinion on how do you feel about working with this person. And we encourage an environment where they give pretty honest answers. So they'll say, I think that they're qualified, but, and if there are red flags, we check that out. We test, we do background testing, we do disc testing, we measure our culture and make sure that we know what kind of personalities that we're inviting into the house. We purposely build a house of diversity, so we're looking for varying opinions. We don't want a bunch of clones. We don't want a bunch of yes people. We want people that are going to challenge thinking in a positive, creative way, but people that are going to challenge that. And then the ultimate litmus test is, I call it the end of the hall test. And that is just a visit. By the time they get to me, they're certainly qualified for the job and everybody else is excited. I want to make sure that when I see that person at the end of the hall, I am going to want to walk towards them and not detour. It's a gut feeling, but after this many years in the business, sometimes you can't quantify what that feeling is, but I've learned to trust my belly.
Allowing to let a resume do the job for you. Getting caught up too much in somebody's background, and particularly assuming that just because they worked where you might have felt the brand was strong, or there were other factors about the product they were associated with that probably meant they were the same or as good as that. So it's so important to learn more than what is in front of you.
We interview in stages. So, and I interview at the end. So we hire initially for expertise. And the department heads do those initial interviews working with human resources. And when they feel like they have the right candidates in terms of their ability to do the job, and then they come to me. And for me, it's talking to them about making sure they understand our mission and are aligned with what our mission is. and will understand the customer experience that we're focused on, the culture of our community, and the fact that they are representing our community, regardless of the job that they have in our organization. So I don't know that one thing is more important than the other. It's critical that you have both. And sometimes I send candidates back, and then they have to start over again, because they might have the right expertise, but they aren't going to be a good fit.
One thing that I'll never forget is that there was one person that I hired that always struck me as a go-getter in the industry, worked in the industry already, and was perceived as being very intelligent and good relationships with customers. The thing that sold me on this person was the accent. They were British, and I always joke now that you don't get fooled with accents. Make sure you dig deeper, because it automatically thinks, sophistication and all these other things. Yeah. It was a disaster.
There's a lot of people in this industry that are just incredibly fun to be around, and they're very likable, and it's important. I think it's some level you have to have it, not just this industry, in any industry really. You've got to be able to relate with and be with people and get things done on the back of a very favorable environment you create as an individual. But it's not the end-all be-all. And you have to be good at what you do, or have an aptitude to want to be good at what you do. You combine that with an impression that you leave with people that says, I want to be around that person next time or more, then you got a winner at that point.
The must-haves in terms of the DNA of a potential candidate that I would hire, he or she has to have passion. They have to have a sparkle in their eye. We can teach them different skills based upon what areas I would hire a staff person, be it marketing, technology, meetings and exhibition management. But they've got to have attitude. They've got to have a sparkle. They have to have a passion.
People can learn almost anything that you need them to learn, but they can't learn the right attitude, and they can't learn kind of how to fit in and how to work with people. And necessarily, so I tend to at one point in my life hired for experience, and now I'm more looking for kind of the personality, looking for the fit, looking for the attitude. Because that really ultimately makes a huge difference in their role as a leader in the organization, in their role as being respected by the stakeholders that we work with, in their role of kind of taking the next step in whatever they may do. It's really got to be based on kind of their attitude.
We talk about the difference between fit and culture and likability, and communication would be the fourth one that I would add. To me, the last two are the best two, because you can even teach culture. You can teach, I won't say you can teach experience, but you can teach people to do things. If they can communicate and if they are likable, then the other stuff can be sort of inbred or taught. And I think we all judge anything we do in life on whether we get along with somebody, whether we can communicate with them. It's really more about a straight-on conversation and the ability for people to connect personally, that everything else can follow after that.